Hello, it's Saturday the 11th of February and this is your Birmingham News Weekend magazine. And because it's the weekend, I'm going to be here with you for the next hour to take a look at what's going on around Birmingham, the West Midlands and beyond. Yes, welcome to the Birmingham News Weekend magazine. Now, coming up on today's show, well, we'll start by taking our regular look at what's up on this week's community notice board. Then we'll turn to Carl Jones for his weekend business update. Our intrepid reporters Steve Green and Jason Forrest will join us with some more interesting guests from around the area. A little later on, Carl will be back with his assessment of the latest on the silver screen. And then Johnny Doom will have his pick of the gigs. Plus, we'll remind ourselves what's been going on around our area too. So it's all within the pages of this week's Weekend magazine. Welcome back to the programme with me, Lee Bannister. Carl will be back again shortly with his regular weekend look at the silver screen. But first, if you were watching last week, then you might remember that Steve Green went along to Birmingham's Blue Orange Theatre and met with Tina Hoffman, the director of a new production of the controversial Lady Chatterley's Lover. Well, this time, Steve is talking to the two actors who've taken on the challenging roles of the adulterous aristocrat and her amorous gardener.
Your ladyship.
Mellors. About that key.
Sir Clifford had no other then?
No, but it doesn't matter. I can sit perfectly peacefully outside the hut. No need for me to intrude inside.
I'm here with Marcus Fernando and Abi Castleton, who are taking the lead roles in the Blue Orange Theatre's production of Lady Chatterley's Lover. Nice to meet you both.
Hello.
Hello there.
It's quite a raw play in many ways, as I was just discussing earlier with the director Tina Hoffman. It's both exposing your emotions and also exposing certain class divides, which obviously was the main interest of D.H. Lawrence when he wrote the novel. How did you bring those two characters to life?
Well, I think for Lady Chatterley particularly, she's got a massive journey. She changes a lot throughout the piece. And we sort of run the show for the first time today and as a whole block. And I've realised how much the first half she's with Clifford, who's her husband, and sort of is existing within that world and working out how she feels about
She's quite a young
his
bride.
thoughts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she marries him at 23, I think. So she sort of tries to settle in that world and tries to work out how that works. And then the second half of the play she gets to spend with Mellors, the gamekeeper, who's lots more fun, but also becomes a sort of different version of herself and sort of gets to know that and then relaxes into that. So I'm quite lucky. I've got a nice journey written into the text, I think.
Because as I say, she's quite a modern woman in certain ways. Her husband, Clifford, obviously loves very much and vice versa. But his accident, or his injuries during the war, means that kind of relationship cannot continue. So you have to discover a whole new side of yourself as that character.
Yeah, they have no ability to have a kind of physical relationship. So I think, particularly when she first meets Mellors, maybe that's what she thinks, that's all she'll find there, and she'll only find this kind of physical side, and that'll fill the gap, and it'll all be lovely and fine. But I think she realises that the gap is bigger than just a physical gap, and that actually Mellors allows her to be a much more than
to be more free,
to be more free, to be the modern woman, to be the kind of natural woman that she kind of grew up running around the forest with.
That was kind of Lawrence's thing, that to be natural. Of course, as Mellors, you have to be that natural character because you are a force of nature in her life.
Yeah, very much a force of nature. And the natural world is incredibly important because one of the things, in a way, that begins to win Lady Chatterley over is when he starts talking about his home, which is just a sort of rough cottage, but it's in the trees and you can hear the wind in the trees and feel the warmth of the firelight. And he's just talking about that. And that has such an effect on her because she lives in this very artificial world where you're expected to behave in a certain way and expected to look in a certain way, and he just doesn't live by those rules. He is what he is.
Yes, he operates very much on a sort of, as they say, animalistic level, but just like any creature of the woods that he lives in.
The trees. The passion.
he also has a journey, perhaps not as extreme as Connie's, but he also goes from being a man as rough and ready and telling her in somewhat coarse language what to do for him or what he intends to do to her. He becomes more gentle and loving.
I think he rediscovers something he thought he'd lost, because he is a very sensual man. He's a very physical man, very as you say, animalistic, and he's got a bad marriage. They're separated anyway. His wife went off, but even when it was there, it worked for a short while and then didn't work anymore. And I think he'd lost faith both in himself and in womankind as far as having a proper physical relationship, which is driven by passion, by the animalistic side. It was all, to him, it had all become fake and artificial, and he didn't really want to be part of that anymore, so he shuts himself away. And with Lady Chatterley, he rediscovers that, and I think that's one of his major journeys, is he discovers something he once remembered but had begun to believe it no longer existed.
I know that obviously as the passion comes out, you two have got to actually show people firstly falling physically for each other, then falling in love with each other. And there has to be a fairly primal expression of that between the two of you.
There's nothing worse, particularly in a story like this, and where Lawrence was coming from with this, which was all about challenging those barriers that people put up, very prudish barriers. There's no point then trying to depict it and being a little bit gentle with it and a little bit hiding under the sheets and things like that.
I think he would be appalled if
absolutely.
That comes through in the book quite well.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wish you the very best of luck with it.
Thank you very much.
And have a great tour.
Thank you.
Will.
Well, the production's currently on a UK tour and it returns to the Midlands later this month to play the Artrix in Bromsgrove on Tuesday the 21st and then Solihull's Core Theatre on Thursday the 23rd. For Marcus and Abi's sake, let's hope both venues remember to turn the heating up. And so it's time to close the pages of the Birmingham News Weekend magazine for Saturday. Now I'll be here at the same time tomorrow, and then there's more news for Birmingham and the West Midlands every weekday with me at 1, and then Mike is here at 6 and 9 in the evenings. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you back here at the same time tomorrow. Now, as promised, let's play out with the cast of All Shook Up and a song for Valentine's Day. As I said to my wife, I can't help falling in love with you. Try a bit.